BS-Free Witchcraft is a production of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. Nerd and Tie produces podcasts ranging from actual play to true crime, and you can find more at nerdandtie.com or join our Discord by going to nerdandtie.com/Discord.
My son said to me, "I can hear thoughts." And I said, "Impossible." And he said to me, "You don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie."
Let's please multiply two numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9, 0, 0.
Unbelievable.
1.
Maybe shuffle again, Dr. Powell. Oh.
Plus 2.
So he got the plus, too.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the 2 the whole time and I saw his hand going somewhere else.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
Welcome to BS-Free Witchcraft, your monthly guide to the modern witchcraft movement. Mine's a lot of the usual, well, bullshit. I'm your host, Trey Dorn. It's January of 2025, and this is going to be a hell of an episode. Oh, my studio is a mess. I'm doing this in the middle of the night, but, you know, there are people who like this show, when I go on a rant, and there are people who like the show when I try to be organized and informative, and I hope I reward both of those people in this episode while making all of us simultaneously angry at the state of the world that has gotten us to where we are right now. Yeah. Because, okay, I don't know if you've noticed this, but one of the most popular podcasts in the United States right now is something called the Telepathy Tapes. It's like been number 1 on the US iTunes charts. It's like hit number 3 on Spotify. It is huge. It was created by filmmaker Kai Dickens and made with the assistance of Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. Like, I cannot understate how big the Telepathy Tapes has gotten. And I could go into some in-depth explanation about like what the show's about, but the long and short of it is the idea that nonverbal autistic people have telepathy. That's it. That's not a metaphor. It's just literally. The show is trying to prove that autistic people, the nonverbal autistic people, have psychic powers, like psychic superpowers, telepathic. Like Dr. Venkman in the beginning of Ghostbusters screwing with co-eds, telepathic. Like the men who stare at goats. Trying to yeah, I am not exaggerating. That's what the show is about. And in the show they have these nonverbal autistic people communicating with other people. They use a technique called spelling, because obviously if you're nonverbal you can't talk, right? That's what nonverbal means. So they use a technique called spelling, which is where the autistic person spells out their thoughts by pointing to letters on a board with the help of a facilitator. You can't really test someone as psychic or not if they can't tell you what they've experienced. After all, like that's a requirement. And the show is very compelling. You see an autistic child asks to identify something or pick a number that they can't see or know, and we see that kid doing that. It's compelling. It's emotional, and Dickens seems to be trying to make it in good faith. But there's a problem here. There's a flaw in the methodology. Zaid Jilani has an excellent critique of this show on the American Saga, and I'm gonna link to that in the show notes. I'm not going to go through everything he says in that article, but you should read the article because he covers a lot of points that I'm not going to touch here. Jelani points out that spelling has a major weakness. Spelling is done with an interpreter, a facilitator, like often someone who's, holding the board and, holding the board up for the autistic person to point to the letter. And this leads to a major problem and something we need to keep in mind. Spelling has never once passed a double-blind test. Back in the 1990s, Dr. Howard Shane of Boston Children's Hospital was asked to design a test to see if spelling is a legitimate method of communication. The reason he was asked to do this is explained in Jelani's article, and it's a whole bag of worms. I'll let you discover on your own. There's a Frontline episode. But the experiment Shane put together involved just both the subject and the interpreter being shown a series of objects, right? The subject would then be asked to identify the object. Sometimes they were the same, sometimes they were different. And the idea then is that if the interpreter couldn't see the object themselves, would the results of the spelling still be correct, right? Because if the nonverbal autistic person can see the object and spelling's an actual effective method of communication, the nonverbal autistic person should still be able to point to the things, and the interpreter should be able to still figure it out without the interpreter actually seeing the thing themselves. And guess what? Spelling failed. When this experiment was tried, the subject couldn't identify the objects when the interpreter could not see them. And spelling isn't some scam or anything like that. The interpreters are working in good faith. But we really like the person who hired Shane was an interpreter, was a person who had been trained to do this, and for reasons that I'm not going to go into, they wanted to test that if what they were getting from the person they were interpreting for, they wanted to test that whether they were getting a correct message, because they were concerned about what they were being told. So these are people who are when they're trained in this and they're doing this, they think they're getting the messages from the person. But it's honestly believed that through subconscious movement, which can signal to the nonverbal person, or through, idiomotor effect, the subjects are pushed to picking things whether anybody means to or not. Right? That the nonverbal person is picking up different cues about what they think they're supposed to be pointing at. It's a Ouija board. It's a Ouija board as an accessibility tool. And this is the flaw of the entire premise of the telepathy tapes. Of course the speller can read the facilitator's mind, because the facilitator is guiding the conversation in one way or another to begin with. But here's the thing. Telepathy is just the latest superpower that we have laid at the feet of autistic people. This is not the first time we've said that they're born special. Saying nonverbal autistic people are secretly psychics is just the newest installment in a long series of events where autistic people have been portrayed as chosen ones or magical beings. And it's harmful. It's deeply, deeply harmful. Now, full disclosure, I am not autistic. I may be neurodivergent in other ways, but I am not autistic as far as anyone can tell. I do have anxiety issues, which is often comorbid with it, trauma response stuff. But if, when I take the RADS test, I am in, like, I've done it more than once. I am in the 30s. Like, I am not here to speak on the autistic experience because I have not lived the autistic experience. I am not here to speak on behalf of the autistic community because I am not a member of the autistic community. All right? Let's keep that in mind. Now, the idea that autistic people have, been seen as different stuff in different times, like, I'm not going to go through the historicity of, like, changeling stuff or things like that, because honestly, there are a lot of questionable sources out there, and it's, yeah, but this idea that autistic people are magical, there are far more recent examples that we have very well documented, and it's really two big ones that both come out of the 1970s in the New Age movement. The New Age movement is responsible for a lot of this. And those two ideas are star seeds and indigo children. Yeah, star seeds or star people are an idea proposed by a guy named Brad Steger in his 1976 book, Gods of Aquarius. And the idea here is that there are people who are alien hybrids, either being born this way or having had their soul replaced by an alien one. It was a human once, and then an alien walked in, took over their soul, and yeah. Now, indigo children, this comes from a woman named Nancy Ann Tapp, Tappe. I am not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly or not. I will be saying Tapp in this episode. I may be wrong, but anyway, she developed the idea in the 70s and went on to publish in the 80s. A self-published work in 82, and then in 86, an expanded, like, full book version called Understanding Your Life Through Color. Tapp claimed different people's auras had different colors, and she obviously isn't the first person to propose that, but what she did come up with was an idea called life colors. Now, before we get into the weeds, Tapp does experience synesthesia, so I believe she sees the things she describes. I'm just not under the impression that they have any meaning other than that it's what her brain chose to show her. I really need to do it. I need to do an episode on auras. I have strong thoughts on auras, and that's something to mind. Anyways, to get back to what we're talking about, Tapp claimed that a lot of children were being born indigo in the 70s, 80s. Like, they were being born with indigo auras. Now, these two ideas sound very different, but really, whether these kids were indigo children or star seeds, whether these people are super special space aliens or magical children vibrating on a different plane, the idea is the same. These are people born or made special who exhibit, they're often talking about having odd behavior or being intuitive and all of this stuff, and, being shy or special or, like, being quiet, and like they literally describe down a bunch of stuff which either can be classified as a number of mental health issues or just being autistic. Like, take the RADS test, autistic. And it's dangerous. Right? I mean, besides you get new age parents not getting kids the accessibility tools they need because they refuse to believe that their kids are anything other than the super special magical beings here from another galaxy to save the world or something. When we start telling anyone, so then that way it's dangerous to the autistic person, or, when we start telling people that they're born special, we are dancing dangerously close to eugenics every single time. We are hopping straight on that pipeline when we talk about this, and it's incredibly dehumanizing when we quite literally are telling autistic people that they aren't human, right? So we are both dehumanizing people while sliding. I've seen people, oh, the next step in evolution. That's not how evolution works. Like, evolution isn't like constant improving. Like, eugenics is this is something that's really popular amongst people who are into eugenics, the idea that things evolve better, that like it's the next thing, and the next thing must be better, because we look at the fossil record and we see, like, we look at the record of like how things evolve and things like that, and obviously what is alive today is in some ways better than the things that are not alive today, because we are alive and they are dead. But that idea that evolution equals improvement, no, evolution equals survivability of the survivability of mutations. We can go many directions, and there are lots of species that aren't alive because they went directions that couldn't survive. So, like, and this is not meant to be a statement, because, God, there is no morality attached to genes. There's no superiority. It is, people are just peopling. And when we start talking about the special people, again, this is all straight into the pipeline, straight into the new age to alt-right pipeline. I don't know how to explain that so much of the stuff in the new age movement leads directly into Nazi shit. And starseeds and indigo children are no different. Even if they, like, they're telling you you're special, they're telling you you're also not human. And when we start dehumanizing people who are viewed as disabled, it's kind of bad. Like, I don't know how to explain to you that this is a bad thing. You know, it's interesting that these ideas of indigo children and starseeds are so similar but so different in their supposed origins, yet because they are really the same idea, pitched within about, 5 years of each other, 5 or 6 years of each other, that people use these terms interchangeably because they're both that stupid. They are both this harmful, stupid idea. And I just really, every time I see it, I just want to pull my hair out. It's unavoidable. And this newest iteration, this new, like, the telepathy tapes, the reason why we get into the weeds here is because when it came to, like, indigo children or starseeds, like, obviously, like, a rational person goes and hears, oh, they've got a magical colored aura, or, oh, they're space aliens. It's easy for them to, like, go, oh, there's a bunch of woo here, or, a bunch of weird stuff. Like, it's easy to dismiss the guy who says it's aliens, right? But when people who are actual, like, people with academic credentials like Diane Hennessy Powell, when they present these things in apparent, like, scientific context, or, like, do it from, with under the guise of something more legitimate, then we get really dangerous, because there are people who don't have the appropriate bullshit meters to take one look at this and go, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Because where do we draw the line, right? Like, so even if spelling worked to the degree that people think it does, right? Like, even if this was an effective communication tool, why is it just the nonverbal autistic people who would have telepathy? Right? Like, what's your explanation then? And because I've talked to a lot of autistic people. I'm friends with a lot of people on the autism spectrum, and none of them can read my mind. Like, we've tried. Like, that's an actual, I've had an interesting life. No one has successfully read my mind so far. Right? So why would this be something that nonverbal autistic people have that autistic people who don't have a problem there somehow, and there are people who are nonverbal who don't stay nonverbal? Like, did they lose their telepathy? Like, I get the feeling that nobody talked to autistic people like directly. I don't know. I've only watched part of this podcast. It seems to me that like I've only listened to part of this podcast, and just strikes me that I feel like the line, like there's, it's just like, oh yeah, the psychic powers only work when the people who supposedly have the powers have to communicate through the person who knows the thing they're trying to test, right? Like, how does somebody like not see that? And I know that they don't see it because they just really want to believe in things so hard. They really just want it to be true so badly that they're willing to accept or believe anything. And it's heartbreaking knowing the truth about it. But it's harmful because this will trick people. Because the people saying it believe it. And that's like the most dangerous thing. Like, it's not a grift, really. I don't think it's a grift. They're just super wrong. If it was a grift, you can call people out, you can reveal, you can pull the mask off. No, I think the creators of this show believe in what they're saying. The problem is what they're saying is wrong, it is harmful, and it is just doing what we have seen done time and time again. It needs to stop. Being autistic doesn't make you more magical than anybody else. You're a human being. Congratulations, you're one of us. And anyone who tells you otherwise should be punched in the genitals. I don't really have. You're a person. That's it. I'm a person. We're all people. And we all have the potential to do magic. But superpower TV level telepathy, ain't it, dog? Look, if you know, the funniest thing is I'm actually like more concerned about offending people who say they're telepathic right now than anyone else. Because I'm gonna reveal, like, I don't like to talk about my personal beliefs a ton, like I do it sometimes, but I don't believe most people, if look, dog, if you tell me that you're telepathic, I don't believe you. I just don't. But I'm more than happy to let you try to prove it. Right? Like, I'm more than happy to like let you, like, we'll sit down in a public place and you can tell me what I'm thinking, and yeah, I'll come up with some weird thing that that's not written down anywhere on the internet or something. And we'll put up a divider so you can't cold read me. And you can't pick up on subconscious cues, like visual cues. You'll have to, like, we'll stand on other sides of a wall. We'll get all James Randi about this. And you can show me that you have telepathy then, but you know, I don't think you do. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying I don't think you have it. So this is just me adding a quick addendum in the edit afterwards. The Patreon version already went out without this little bit. But when I say I don't believe that people are psychic, it's not that I don't believe that people are capable of, like, having moments of premonitions and things like that, or having, you know, prophetic dreams, or like any of that stuff. Please don't take that into this.
What I mean is that anybody I've ever met who tells me they're psychic, I've never found them convincing. Friends who have told me that they've had like moments of clarity and things like that, or like visions, or like, you know, woke up knowing that their best friend was going into labor, like all of that stuff is the kind of stuff I believe. I don't believe people who tell me they're psychic and present themselves as psychics, like by default. I hope that makes sense. I didn't want people to think I was dismissing everything or the entire concept, but I dismiss people who call themselves psychic by default. If you go around calling yourself a psychic, you have to prove it to me. That's all I'm saying. All right, now back to the episode as originally recorded.
But that's besides the point. We're going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another month of the show. I do want to remind people that I do have a new book out. Shadowcasting came out in December. It's available at all major bookstores. I mean, you can order it from all major bookstores. Whether or not they stock it is up to them. It's also available on Amazon, on Kindle. Won't be on other e-readers until probably March. But for right now, this is available in paperback, through, you know, anywhere that you feel like buying it, and also on Amazon and also on Kindle. Shadowcasting, it's book 3 in the Mia Graves series. The first book is The Witch and the Rose. The second book is Bloody Damn Right, spelled R-I-T-E. And it's a fun contemporary fantasy series set in northern Indiana, and it's fun, it's queer, a little spicy. I enjoy it. But I wrote it. Besides that, BS3 Witchcraft is brought to you by patrons like you, people who choose to support the show over at Patreon at patreon.com/TRAEGORN. Joining the Patreon gives you access to episodes like this a whole week early, and people at the $5 level get access to all paid patrons get access to episodes early. They get a free download of Super Awesome Action Heroes, the role-playing game system I created. I know it's unrelated to Witchcraft, but it's the thing I made. It's the thing that I offer. I'm giving it to all my patrons who are paid. People at the $5 level will get books after they've been out for a year. So right now, $5 patrons get a copy of The Witch and the Rose as an ebook for free. I mean, not for free, as for part of their $5 subscription. And members at the $10 level get every book that's out the moment it hits my ebook store. So after they exit the exclusivity window with Kindle, they'll go straight to that ebook store, and the $10 patrons get all of them. $10 patrons also get shouted out, so special thanks to Lindsay Dosey, Bruce Norville, Courtney, Claire Dennis, Kayla Burkowski, and Pamela Stariak. And remember, you know, if you can't support the show on Patreon, remember, actually do sign up for the Patreon too, because there's a free tier. You don't get any rewards, but it's a great way to keep track of when I'm doing stuff, when I'm releasing stuff. Any new news about projects I'm doing, I put it there. So you should join the Patreon whether you feel like paying me money or not, because it's a great way to, you know, just keep track of what I'm doing. This show, if you want to also support the show in ways that don't cost any money, please tell your friends about it on social media. I'm primarily on Tumblr these days. It's TRAEGORN. I'm on Blue Sky. That's my other big one, TRAEGORN.bsky.social. So for the record, I'm recording this on the night of Thursday, January 16th. And at this moment, I have a TikTok. Whether that is true when this episode goes public on January 25th is anybody's guess right now with everything happening. So if TikTok exists, I am there as TRAEGORN, Tregorn. If TikTok exists, I am there. That is who I am on most social networks. You can follow the show on Facebook. at BS Free Witchcraft. Facebook.com/BS Free Witchcraft is the page for this. Do not try to find my personal Facebook page. It's where I talk to my mom, and honestly, I don't know how much longer that's going to be like a thing anyways. So, because speaking of Nazi bullshit, Jesus fucking Christ. Anyways, we are a proud member of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. There are other great shows on the network, like Hex Positive, hosted by Brina Guerin, who is back after having been on hiatus for a little bit. And you can find that show at nerdandtie.com/hex if you want more witchcraft stuff right now. Also, you can join our community. If you want to talk to me, like just talk to me, there are two ways to do it. First off, we are trying to keep we got a small forum. There's only a few of us there, but we are cooking. We are there, and that is nerdandtie.social. That is the forum for the Nerd and Tie Network, which, includes this show. But also we have a Discord, which is a bit more active, which you can find invite at nerdandtie.com/discord. All the Nerd and Tie shows can be found at nerdandtie.com. Actually, Cool and Unusual Punishment just finished a new series called Chosen. That's our the true crime series on there. You should really check that out. They do great work. Jody and Tyler are amazing. But with that, I think we've kind of dragged through all the post-show stuff that I needed to cover. So with that, Magicians, I'm wrapping this up, and I will talk to you all next month. Remember, dirt in our fingernails, brick in our hands. I'll talk to you, Magicians, next month.